Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Veronica. I run a small business where I sell plushies and candles at markets and online. And today I wanted to take you guys along for my first fall market of 2025. So this has been such a long time coming. I haven't had a market in over 3 months. So I'm super excited for this one. I've never been to this market before. It's kind of far away for me personally, so it takes me an hour to get there. The setup starts at 8, so I really want to be there at 8, so that is why it's kind of early for me still. And then the market will start at 10. I believe that some people have already set up yesterday, so that kind of makes it easier for us who set up today, because there won't be as many people for setup as if everybody would set up today. So that is amazing, and I'm really excited to see how this market does. It's a huge market. It will be a 2-day event, so Saturday and Sunday. And yeah, these organizers put on quite a lot of markets like in cities around me, but I've never attended a market from them as a vendor ever before. I've been to the markets like as a customer, but not as a vendor. So I'm really excited to see if these markets are like something I want to continue to do in the future. The booth fee is kind of hefty, so we shall see about that. But more on that later. For now, I will go and drive to the venue. We were given like a unloading spot, so like really close to the venue where we can park for a short time and like take out all of our setup. And then there's also like, I think it's free parking pretty much nearby. So that is my plan like for the whole day. So yeah, let me go there and we will start the setup and start the whole first market day. Okay, friends, it's now 10 past 9. I have just reparked my car after like unloading everything, and I have already built up like the bare bones of my setup, so like my shelves, and I have like everything else scattered around. I ended up not using all of my shelves, so that is why one of the sides is still here. So now I just had to repark because like parking right outside of the building is like 15 euros for the whole weekend, which is not like too much, but still it's like 200 meters away that I can park for free. And so of course I will take that. And yeah, now I need to walk back and actually like set up the details of my booth. And my booth neighbor is so nice. She sells like upcycled clothes, and she ended up borrowing me her wagon. So unloading was way easier than I thought, because I could just like load up the huge wagon that she has like twice and have all of my things inside. So that was awesome of her. And just in general, she's like super nice. So I am super glad that I have the spot that I have. When I got to the venue, I like checked in. It's like a huge market, so you like have to check in with like a little booth at the front, and they told me where my spot was, and I already knew that, like they sent out an email beforehand. But when I got to my spot just now, there was actually like a changing booth set up. So they have like 2 or 3 of those booths around the market for the people that sell clothes, so that people can actually try on the clothes. And one of them was set up like right on my spot. So I ended up telling them and they moved it. But it was kind of stressful because I am by myself today. And yeah, I didn't have like that much time to spare, but I ended up moving it super quickly. And then the whole situation with the wagon happened. So that ended up being way quicker than I thought. So now I need to stop talking, walk back to the venue. I will hopefully try and show you a little bit. And yeah, set up my booth, and then at 10 the market will start. So I'm super excited.
I don't wanna call you later. You're tearing my heart up like it's paper, and somehow you turn to a stranger. We used to work, now I'm trying to make sure that we're both on the same page. I don't want it to should've known from the start that you were a waste of an open bar tab. Wiping my feet on the doormat. There's so much of you that I just can't leave. Yeah, nothing makes it clearly when there's love on the line. But I spent time with someone that I don't even like. There's nothing left to fix if you don't want me to try. Oh, why, oh, why, oh, why would I? When you were barely even mine. Oh, why, oh, why, oh, why would I?
Ja, die zwei. Gerne. Brauchst du eine Tüte dazu? Dann sind es 12 bei dir. Mal ganz kurz, es dauert immer einen Moment beim ersten Mal. Ich glaube, das geht nur über Bluetooth, das ist eigentlich okay. Das hört sich ganz gut an. Ja, wunderbar, dann ganz viel Spaß damit und ganz viel Spaß beim Shoppen. Genau, also entweder ich kann dran machen für den Euro Aufpreis, kann ich an alle anfangen, oder man kann auch selber Hallo. Wisst ihr, was die Pilze sind? Oh mein Gott. Hallo. Gerne. Dann sind es 12 Euro bei euch. Ja, die Lernkurve ist recht steil am Anfang. Also ich habe auch so ein paar, wo du absolut nicht erkennen kannst, was es sein sollte.
Bei mir wird es jetzt genauso kommen.
Ja, bei mir auch. Das Kaninchen halt.
Das
Ja.
sieht dann nicht so, als hätten wir das gleiche Problem.
Dankeschön. Ja, irgendwann hat man es raus und dann ist man irgendwie da schon so dran gewöhnt. Ich mache jetzt immer, bei den Märkten mache ich immer Sachen, die relativ einfach sind, wo man nicht viel mitzählen muss irgendwie. Weil dann kann man die Zeit trotzdem ein bisschen nutzen. Ja, das ist aber auch, ich weiß nicht, ob ihr auch so eine Wolle benutzt habt. Das ist halt auch, ja. Ja, ich fühle es eher tatsächlich. Ich habe halt inzwischen schon so ein bisschen mehr ein Gefühl, dass man immer weiß, okay, da ist dann das nächste Loch. Aber sehen tue ich auch. Hallo! Okay friends, so day one is almost over. Sorry, I only get to check in with you right now. It's not been like super busy, but like consistently busy. So I didn't really have the time to check in with you guys. I'm very interested to see how tomorrow does. Honestly, today has been a little below my expectations, but I'm very happy to see that my candles have been doing pretty well and they're kind of keeping up with the plushies, so that is a good thing. Yeah, so I have been crocheting chicken bodies
for the whole day. So that has been super productive, and we will see. I'm about to like pack up here, or like not pack up, but like drive home. The good thing is that I can leave everything here because like it's an indoor market. So yeah, I can keep everything set up till tomorrow. Yeah, that's kind of everything I wanted to tell you right now, and I will check in with you guys later.
Okay, friends, I'm now back at the car after day one, and I wanted to check in with you guys and kind of give you a little more of a organized update than I did at the market. So I'm really sorry I didn't check in with you guys anymore throughout the day. I just got back from vacation like 1 week ago, so I haven't filmed at all in the past 4 weeks. So I kind of need to get back into it. So that is why I didn't really check in with you guys. But I wanted to like give you a little bit of a recap for day one. So setting up was pretty easy, pretty smooth. I was able to put up all of the shelves by myself, which was not a huge struggle. So I definitely have that figured out by now. And yeah, I just got the setup done just in time. So I know that like by myself doing the shelf setup, it like takes me exactly like 2 hours around. So that is good to know for the future. But I'm actually not sure like how much of a just shelf setup I will do in the future. I'm kind of like missing my tables. I don't know why. Like I thought that like upgrading to the shelves would be a thing that I wouldn't go back on. But today I sometimes thought to myself like having a table would be super practical. So I'm not sure about that in the future, but we will see what happens there. I definitely like having my candles on a shelf, but for my plushies, I think I prefer having them on a table, just like spread out. So that's definitely something that I want to keep in mind for the future. And then let me talk about the day just a little bit. I don't have any numbers yet because I just got back to the car, but just like feeling wise, I think my booth placement is like a little suboptimal. So I'm kind of like towards the end of the market. So there's around, I think it's like 202 booths or so. And my number is 172. So I'm kind of at the back of the market. And I think like at the time people have seen 170 booths. They kind of like get a little tired or they have already like kind of done their shopping. So I definitely wish that my booth was somewhere like more towards the front. The very front spaces, though, at this market cost a lot more than the other spaces. So that is something that I would not really purchase. But like, I still wish my booth was a little more towards the front, not in like the premium spaces, but like right after. But still, there was quite a lot of people. I had quite a lot of sales. I had around 2 pages of sales in my little notebook that I keep, and I know that each page is around 25 sales. So if I had to guess, I would say I made around 50 or so individual sales today, and quite a lot of people ended up picking up more than one item. So definitely a good day. Something I haven't told you yet is that the booth fee for this market was kinda hefty. So I paid 357 euros for this booth, which is like the second most expensive market I've done. So that is definitely something to keep in mind once we look at the results at the end of the market, that I actually had to pay quite a lot of money to just be at the market. So that is kind of unfortunate. It kind of puts a lot of pressure on the first hours of a market. At least that's what I was feeling today, to like make back the booth fee as quickly as possible just to like be in the positive again. So that's definitely something that I'm not like super used to because I do a lot of like smaller markets that cost like 20 to 50 euros. So 357 is quite a big jump from that. So I'm not used to not making my booth fee back in the first hour or so. So that was kind of like very stressful this morning, I have to say. I know that I definitely made over my booth fee today, which is good. But still, like feelings wise, I feel like this market could have been a lot better today. I'm really interested to see how it does tomorrow, since Sunday is usually the busier day for markets where I live. So I'm really hoping to have a little bit of an increase in sales tomorrow. But overall, I feel like I'm super, super stocked up. I've never had this much inventory for a market before. So that definitely feels so, so good that at the end of day one, I put a clip in at the end of day one of my booth. You can't really tell that like this booth has been shopped from. So I really, really like having this much inventory, and I wish I could keep it up all season. I definitely know that's not gonna happen, but still, that is something I could like live with every market, to have this much inventory. And yeah, now I will drive home for like 1 hour, and then we will have dinner and just have a chill evening. I need to repack my bag, like my little market bag that I always take, where I take like yarn and all of that to work on, because I definitely want to work on some cats tomorrow because they have been super popular today. No surprise there, they always are like one of the best sellers. So that is my goal for tomorrow. And then I also need to like reset my cash box, take some of that out, and then I should be good to go for tomorrow. I'm really excited. That is like a huge plus, having a 2 day market that you don't need to set up anything on the second day. So tomorrow the market is also from 10 to 6. So I will try and be there like 20 minutes to 10 or something like that. So I definitely am excited that I get to sleep in a little more than this morning. But yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow morning for day 2 of the market. Good morning, friends. I am back at the venue, or like at the free parking lot right next to the venue, and it's 20 minutes until 10, so that is when the market starts again. So I will just like walk over there and make sure that everything is set up for day 2 of the market. I don't have a lot to add from yesterday's check-in. I just repacked my yarn bag that I can have some projects to work on today as well again. And then I also packed a little more snacks than yesterday because I ended up being like super hungry in the evening and I didn't really have a ton of snacks with me for day 1. So I improved my snacking strategy for a day 2. So that's a good thing. And yeah, we will see how day 2 does. As you can tell, the sun is out currently, so it's a little better weather today, which is unfortunate because it's an indoor market. So we will see if the weather affects anything for day 2. But like it's still pretty cloudy, so I think like it's not stable enough that people will go like on huge day trips. So that might be a good thing. And yeah, on the streets it was like super empty. So I'm hoping that people like actually don't go on any day trips or anything like that and just stay home and check out like a market that's happening locally. So we will see. I'm excited for day 2 and I will check in with you guys a little later. Ja, klar, nehmen wir gerne. Vielleicht gerne. Brauchst du eine Tüte dazu? Ja, dann sind es 22. Ja, klar. Wunderbar. Dann vielen Dank euch. Viel Spaß noch. Hallo. Gerne. Ich würde dir noch ein Kärtchen dazu geben, wenn die leer ist. Ich habe nachgedacht. Ist dann quasi nur das Ja. Manchmal kommt man so ein bisschen durcheinander. Dann packe ich es dir ein bisschen ein. Das ist die Webseite. Genau. Brauchst du eine Tüte dazu? Ja. Ja, das ist so langsam eskaliert irgendwie bei mir. Und jetzt habe ich so 2 Sachen auf einmal. Ja. Genau, dann sind es 12 bei dir. Ja, klar. Okay, friends, I'm now back from the market, and I always like to do a little recap portion of like what happened at the market, any stories I wanted to share, some of the best sellers, answering the question if I would go back to this market, and then, of course, how much I sold and how much I made at this market. And I actually realized I didn't film this part for this video, so I am currently filming this on Friday, so on the very day that this video is coming out. So I guess, hey guys. So let me get into the little recap of this market. So as I said, this was a 2-day event and it was quite the big market. I had never attended any of the markets that these organizers put on, but they put on quite a lot of markets. I think it's around 10-ish markets in the spring, and then they do the same markets in the fall as well. And this was the second market in the fall time, and they put them on in lots of different cities in like south of Germany and then all of Austria. So they travel around for different markets, and this was one of the closer ones to my house, so I only had to drive for an hour, but that kind of made it easier to check out this market and see if these markets from these organizers are something that I wanted to apply for in the future as well. And this particular market was only put on in that location the second time around. So they only started doing that, I think, last year in the fall. And then this very market was supposed to happen middle of May, so like in the springtime. But they had to move the date to a later date because they were like still missing some things from the city, and they were actually weren't allowed to put on the market in May, but rather had to move it to the beginning of October, which ended up working out fine because actually there were so many people at this market. Like this market was very well attended, especially on Sunday. I put in a little clip of me walking around at the market, and there was actually quite a lot of people there. This market is not a free entry market, so the people who wanted to like go to this market had to pay, I think it was €7 per person. So that is actually kind of expensive, and yeah, still there were so many people there, so that is a good thing. And the market was from 10 to 6 on both days, so a total of 16 hours of market, which is quite a long market, but I actually prefer it that way because then I only have to set up once and can like get more out of one setup and takedown process. So I actually like pretty long markets like that. And I think like 2-day events, I'm starting to realize I actually prefer to little 1-day events, but we will see. I still have a couple of each of those coming up. And then at the end of this year, I actually have my 9-day long market, which I'm very excited for. So we will see if I actually end up liking that even more than 2-day markets. But for now, I really like these actual craft fairs. There was around 200 vendors there. And something that I really like at these craft fairs is that around me are also like small businesses compared to my street fairs that I do, where there's lots of clubs and organizations that don't necessarily run a small business. So there at these craft shows, like the one I did last weekend, you can really connect with some other small business vendors and like kind of share some stories, some insights, and there's always somebody around who's like further along in the process of running a small business. So my booth neighbor on my right, he sold like soaps and bath salt and all types of different essential oils. And he had just recently quit his job and was now a full-time self-employed small business owner. And that's always kind of exciting to talk about the whole behind the scenes of that and get some insight into other people's journey. So that is always a great thing. But yeah, I also wanted to get into my booth setup for this market for a little bit. So I kind of talked about that a little before, like when I checked in between the 2 days, but I'm honestly not 100% convinced that bringing my shelf setup is always the best option for these bigger indoor markets. So the last time I brought these, I had a corner booth, and that was awesome to put up the shelves in kind of like an L shape so people could shop from both sides. But this time around, I was like somewhere in the middle of a row, and I'm not sure if the shelves are the best option for a booth placement like that, because my booth neighbor to my left had like pretty high up clothes racks, so you couldn't really see my booth until you like walked right past it. So I think that having my shelves, I had to put them up as you saw in like an L shape, but like towards the back. So that made it so that my booth was actually moved a little back from the other vendors. So on my left, I had the clothes vendor that had a really high up booth. And then to my right, all of the vendors in my row had tables at the very front of their booth. So my booth was the only one that was like moved a little backwards. And I'm honestly not sure if I actually like that. I think I would have preferred to only bring one shelf and kind of put it like towards the front. And I put like a 4-foot table right next to it so that my whole booth would have been pushed up to the front as well, just so I could line up with the other vendors and like stand out a little more. So we will see. My next bigger 2-day indoor event is coming up beginning of November. So we will see if my booth placement is on a corner. That is when I would bring my shelf setup. And if it's like in the middle of a row, I think I will try out a one shelf and one table setup the next time, just so I can play around and figure out what my favorite setup is for all types of different markets. So that was definitely a good insight to get at this event. But now let's actually talk a little more about some numbers, some sales, some bestsellers. So I actually don't have exact numbers for bestsellers. It's more like what I felt like was selling really well. So let's start with my candles. First of all, my candles sold so well at this event. My shelf that I had towards the front of the L shape had my candles on them because my train of thought there was I was actually the only plushie crochet vendor at this market. There were a couple people who had a couple crochet plushies, but they all used some cotton yarn and had their focus on something else in their booth. So there was like a vendor that sold handmade baby clothes, and she also had a couple of crocheted plushies, but as I said, with cotton yarn and not with plush yarn. So I knew that that was like a unique thing in my booth, and people would be more willing to step into my booth to look at the plushies than the candles, because there were, I think, 4 more candle vendors. So I thought it would be better to have the candles at the very front to make it easier for people to shop and have the plushies kind of move back, just because there was nobody else selling anything like that. So I think that ended up working out fine, and that is one of the reasons I think that my candles ended up selling quite a lot, and I ended up handing out quite a lot of business cards. I actually had to reprint a couple at home on the evening of day one because so many people kept picking up business cards for my candles, because my candles are refillable. So once you have burned the candle, you can get a refill from my specific candle Etsy shop, which I actually will be linking down below starting this week. I don't know why I've never like linked that below. I have an own Etsy shop just for my candles. So that was what was on the business cards for my candles, and they ended up being pretty popular. So I'm excited to see if people actually like follow up on their candle purchase with like some refills or other candles as well. We will see about that. I will definitely let you know once that happens. So I ended up selling a total of 61 candles over the course of the 2 days, and the most popular scents were actually the ones that are usually popular. So my pine trees and oranges candle was, I think, the most popular. That is like a very, it kind of reminds me of like Tuscany in Italy. It's like a very fruity but also woody scent. So that ended up being very popular. I actually ended up selling out of the small size in this candle, and I brought 11 of those. And then I also sold out of the small size of my Layali candle, which is a more oriental, masculine, kind of musky scent, which is always popular at the big 2-day craft shows, but it's always like one of the least popular scents at my little street fairs. I always think that's kind of funny, but I also ended up selling out of the small size for that one, and I brought 7 of the small there, and I also sold three of the big ones for that one. So that was super popular. And then also my sandalwood candle, which is obviously mostly based on sandalwood, a more woody and musky scent. So these ended up being the most popular scents of my candles. And then in plushies, I actually also don't have actual numbers because I now have 3 back-to-back markets, and then my plan is to after that do an actual inventory again and see what the numbers are for all of the 3 fall markets. So I don't have exact numbers, but I would say on day 1 I sold mostly small plushies, so my 6 euro mini plushies. They were pretty popular, and I would say the octos were the most popular, so no surprises there. They always tend to be the most popular. And then on day 2 I actually sold quite a lot of my big plushies. So I sold my giraffe, I sold my bunny with a sunflower hat that I made for my fall patterns video. I sold one of my sleepy bears, which is my own pattern, and both of my sleepy elephants, which are also my own pattern. So that was super exciting to actually sell quite a lot of my own patterns at this event. Yeah, in total, I ended up selling 77 plushies and 2 wristlets. So I had these as well, and I sold 2 of those. And something that happened at the market was I was like standing in my booth and working on some sort of crochet plushie, as I always do. And a woman came up to my booth and actually asked me if I had been a vendor last year in December at one of my Christmas markets, because she saw my wristlets and recognized me from that, because last year in December she bought a wristlet from me and she actually showed me her keys and the wristlet was still on there and it was still looking just like day 1. So that was super exciting for me. First of all, that she recognized me from a small market that happened almost a year ago, and second of all, that she still uses her wristlet every day and it's holding up, it's looking very good. And that was like honestly so exciting to hear. But let's get into some of the numbers. So on Saturday I had 49 orders, so 49 sales, and then some more individual items because some people ended up picking up more than one item, but it was 49 orders for a total of 743 euros. And I almost made the same in card as I did in cash. So that's always something that happens at these bigger markets, that lots of people want to pay by card. So that is always a very important option to have at especially bigger markets, but just in general. And then on Sunday, as I said, that was the busier day. So I had 62 orders, which is not that much more than Saturday, but the orders were way bigger because, first of all, I sold quite a lot of my big plushies, and then also lots of people ended up picking up more than one item, especially on Sunday. So I ended up making 1,167 euros on Sunday, which means in total I had 111 orders combined throughout both days, and I made 1,910 euros, which is so good. It's so amazing, but still, you have to remember that I paid 357 euros for the booth fee, and then I had to travel there every day, 1 hour there and 1 hour back. So that was almost, with like gas and mileage on my car, that was almost another 100 euros. So for the fees that I had to attend this market, I honestly hoped for just a little more. I always like to make 10 times my booth fee. That is when I think a market is like good for me, but still I really enjoyed this market. I sold quite a lot of stuff, so I don't want to complain. I just had a little higher hopes for this market than I ended up making. But still, I actually haven't 100% decided if I want to sign up for some of the spring markets that they put on. I'm still thinking about it. I still have a little bit of time until applications open for the spring markets, and I might just apply for like 1 or 2 events that are kind of close to me. So the one I just did, and then there's another one in another city nearby that I would apply to. So we will see. I definitely need to look at my spring market plan for next year in just a little bit and figure out all of the dates and if I want to apply to certain events. So yeah, I actually can't give you a real answer to that question yet. But overall, I really enjoyed finally doing a market again. It had been over 3 months since my last event, so it felt so good to finally be out there again and have my small business on display. And I can't wait to do that again actually in just 2 days because, as I said, I have back to back to back markets for fall planned all throughout October. So I will definitely see you guys again next week for another market vlog. That one will be a smaller street fair, but it's my favorite street fair. So I hope I will see you guys there, and I thank you guys so much for watching this market vlog all the way until the end, and bye!